Boker Tov to everyone. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero as we continue through our study of Sefer Ha-Ikkarim, the introduction part 2. But before we start, let me say a blessing over here for the coffee. So I got some coffee. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nihiyah b'viro. Wonderful, wonderful. So welcome. And just want to remind you that we are doing this in English. You know, those of you who watch our previous video. And so we're going to continue this morning with the Sefer Ha-Ikkarim, where we left off at, which was in regards to a summary of the entire book, and then we're going to go delve into the book itself. Those of you who do need a copy or wish a copy, please let me know. Send me a request at rabbiotero@yahoo.com. That's rabbiotero@yahoo.com, and this way we can get it out there to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. We ended with the summary of book 1, which has 27 chapters, and now we're going to do a summary of book number 2. And here we're going to go right into it. Book 2 explains the first principle, the existence of God, and is divided into an observation in 31 chapters. And so we're going to go really quick into each one of these chapters so we have an idea of what it involves. Number 1, the observation calls the attention to the method which he uses. Talking about Rabbi Joseph Albo. And we're doing this whole entire series in memory of a good friend of mine, George Albo, YEHUDAH NATAN. His merit, he passed away last year, and just wanted to do something in his memory since he is a descendant of the Albo family, and knew his father and Joseph Albo, who in Spanish was Jose Albo. But in any case, we're going to continue this morning to do the summary, and we'll go through the whole entire book with God's help. Chapter 1 explains the existence as applied to God is not used in the same sense as when applied to other existing things. It points out the existence of God is not known from his essence, but it's inferred from existing things emanating from him. Part of the Psalms 104 is explained in chapter 1. Chapter 2 of book number 2 explains that we can apply the word maker to God in the sense in which it is applied to other agents, whether natural or voluntary. It is also pointed out that we cannot say of God that he acts with his eternal will, as many have thought. In chapter 3 of book 2 of Ha-Ikkarim, it explains in what sense we can say that God, that he acts with will, pointing out the verse in Isaiah 55, verse 8, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts." And of course it says, "Continue, my ways are not your ways." It is intended to solve the difficulty concerning the divine will, which is greater than the difficulty concerning the divine knowledge, wisdom, and other attributes. It also explains that the divine will does not necessitate change in God as it does in us. In chapter 4 of book number 2, it explains that from the statement in the Bible of the coming into being of things as different times, we derive as a proof of existence of a maker who acts with purpose and will, and is also given scientific demonstration of the existence of God and the principles derived from it, based upon the things perceived by our own senses. In chapter 5 of book 2, we're going to point out and look at 2 proofs of the existence of God given by Maimonides in the beginning of the second part of the Guide to the Perplexed. Are neither one of them worth the attention of the religionists, according to Albo, and the third proof given by Maimonides is the best of all. In chapter 6, in book 2, in Ha-Ikkarim, he explains the formal content of belief, which every religionist must entertain, and the fundamental principles of the existence of God and the secondary principles derived from it. It is pointed out that there is neither a definition nor a description of God enabling us to know his true essence and existence. Chapter 7 explains that from the secondary principle derived from the fundamental principles, the existence of God flow all attributes which may be ascribed to God or which may be denied of him. A reason is also given why the number of secondary principles is 4 and not more. In chapter 8 of the Sefer Ha-Ikkarim, book number 2, he begins to treat the attributes in order to explain the principle of the unity of God, and it's pointed out that an attribute applied to a thing descriptive of its activity does not necessarily imply plurality in the nature of the agent, even though the latter, be it natural or voluntary, is the author of contrary actions. Now, the human soul, for example, is one, though it is the author of contrary action. God also may have attributes ascribed to him from 3 different points of view, no one of them necessarily implying plurality in his essence. In chapter 9, book 2 explains that the point of view which denies all attributes to God, whether essential or accidental, and criticizes on the ground that he must have some attributes or attributes such as unity or others. Chapter 10 explains the various meanings of the term one, and the sense in which we say that he is one, as is explained in Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So in chapter 10, Albo goes into explaining the various meanings of the word echad, and that we'll take a look at in chapter 10. Chapter 11 of book 2 explains the manner in which the many are derived from the one, and that the emanation of existing things from the first cause, according to the opinions of Ibn Sina and Maimonides. It also explains the statement of the rabbis that the Sabbath said to God, Master of the universe, to everyone thou hast given a mate, but to me thou hast not given a mate. And the Lord replied, My daughter, the congregation of Israel shall be thy mate. It is also pointed out the commandment of the Sabbath is a sign, an ot. Chapter 12 treats the existence of the angels and discusses the various opinions concerning their nature and the possibility of there being many, many angels. This is the reason why we're going to get into a lot of these areas that many of you have asked questions about over the ideas of angelology. Chapter 13 explains the manner in which many can be derived from the simple one. According to the opinions of Ibn Rushd, the ancient philosophers, it criticizes this view and in the manner indicated in chapter 11 and explains the connection of the verse, Hear, O Israel. Now in chapter 14 Albo begins to treat the second derivative principle, the incorporality of God, and explains in what manners are attributed to God, such as corporeal affections as anger, slow vengeance, bearing a grudge, also why we ascribe to him pride, which is a bad quality, and it also explains why God is called King of Glory. So all of these things become important in our conversation throughout all of this that we're going to get into. Now in chapter 15, Albo explains in what way joy is ascribed to God, as it says in Psalms 104, verse 31. The Lord rejoices in his work, while the rabbis say, joy is in his habitation. It also explains a verse of Psalms 36, verse 8 through 9. Chapter 16 explains the various ways or uses of the word laughter, in the same in which it is said that he laughs. So what does that mean, that God says he laughs? And we're going to take a look at that also in this chapter 16, which explains the various uses of the word that God laughs. The Lord rejoices. Chapter 16 explains these various uses, and thus it is said that God is laughing. It's also explained that the cause of laughter in every case, and the reason for the statement of the philosophers that the laughter is a human property. Chapter 17 explains that in that sense, it is said that of God, or the glory of God, that he is in a place, seeing that he is not corporeal. It inquires whether we can say that God of an incorporeal thing, that it occupies a certain position up or down, though it does not occupy space. The Aristotelian definition of space is defined and criticized, and the author, Rabbi Albo, maintains, contrary to the view of Aristotle, that space is a vacuum or void, and answering Aristotle's criticism of this view. Chapter 18 begins to treat the third derivative principle, that God is not subject to time, explaining that in the sense which God is spoken of as an eternal parte ante and a parte post, before and after. It explains that there is another view of nature of time besides that of Aristotle, namely that the unmeasured duration and the motion of the sphere is time. It also explains expression, as we see in Isaiah 44, verse 6, I am the first and the last. Chapter 19 of book number 2 of the Ha-Ikkarim explains that every attribute ascribed to God is eternal in both directions, like him, and that God does not change since he is not subject to time, while everything else changes, and as it explains in Psalms 37 verse 25, together with the statement of the rabbis that the prince of this world is the author thereof. And he gives reason also for the repetition of the pronoun I in Isaiah 43 verse 11. In chapter 20, we're going to take a look at how he explains the meaning of the homonym kol as an all, in order to remove the difficulty arising from Psalms 9 verse 15, that I may tell of all kol thy praise. It also explains the verses of Genesis chapter 1 verse 31, and God saw that all that he made, and behold, it was good. Interesting. He saw everything, and behold, it was good. We can also take a look at chapter 21 of book number 2 of Ha-Ikkarim, which begins to explain the fourth derivative principle, which is that God is free from defect, pointing out at the same time that we must ascribe to God some positive attributes. It's explained also in the sense that the attributes are ascribed to him according to the wise men learned in the Torah, maintaining that all the attributes are applicable to God in the sense only that they denote perfection, completion. There is no, you might say, nothing incomplete in God. Chapter 22 explains that the opinion of Maimonides is that the only attribute that may be ascribed to God are negative, or those which are derived from God's act, like merciful, gracious, generous. It also explains who is deserving of being called generous. Interesting. It also explains the meaning of the prayer of Moses. Show me thy ways, says Exodus 33:13, as well as the passage of the Talmud in Berachot 33b, wherein they say that if Moses had not used the expression, the great, the mighty, and the fearful God, and the men of the great assembly, or the men of the great synagogue, had not subsequently incorporated it in prayer, we should not use it. In chapter 23, we're going to look at Sefer Ha-Ikkarim and how it explains the positive attributes according to this opinion, are unworthy of God unless they designate his acts, and therefore God must be praised from 2 points of view, with 2 kinds of attributes in relationship to himself and in relation to his acts. He's also pointed out that there are 2 kinds of praise which are alluded to in the Psalm 103. Chapter 24 explains that there are attributes which are clearly ascribed to God by reason of his acts, where there are other concerning which is doubtful whether they refer to God's essence or to his acts, in which the later cases explain how the attributes are to be understood. It's also explained the meaning of the attributes as living, wise, and possessing will, powerful, and the like. In chapter 25 of the second book of Ha-Ikkarim, he explains the fourth principle, namely that God is free from defects. In other words, it follows that God has an infinite number of perfections, and that every one of these attributes is infinite in two respects, in time and in worth. It's also pointed out that this matter is alluded to Psalms 130. Chapter 26 explains the word blessed. Several meanings which it has, and the sense in which it is applied to God. It explains how, also in Psalms 145, pointing out how it's possible to praise God forever, using the method that is mentioned in the preceding chapter 25. In chapter 27, Albo explains the application of the word emet, truth, and sheker, falsehood, and kazab, lie, pointing out that there are no existing things to which the word emet applies in the strict sense except God. This is why the rabbis say that the seal of God is emet. For the same reason God is called I am that I am. In chapter 28, we're going to take a look at what Albo described and explains why the Tetragrammaton is called Shem HaMeforash, pointing out at the same time that the names are sometimes applied to things without being any similarity between them, and thus the Bible calls the altar Adonai Nisi, the Lord is my banner, in Exodus 17, verse 15, and applies the name of God to Jerusalem and the Messiah. Also, angels are called by the name of God. It is pointed out that therein the prophet thinks that the angels who speaks to him is God, and the angels too speaks in the name of God who sent him. A reason is given why Joshua bowed down to the angel, seeing that it is forbidden to prostrate oneself even to the angels. It is also pointed out that it is an error to mention the names of the angels in prayer, something that many people who are involved in practical Kabbalah attempt to do to their own harm. In chapter 29 explains the homonym, or light. It gives various meaning of the word and explains why God is called light. It also explains the verse in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 28, as well as the statement of the rabbis that if a person looks at the rainbow, his eyes will become weak. It's also pointed out also the sense of perceived accidents of things only. In chapter 30 of the second book of Ha-Ikkarim, Albo goes into the area where wise men differs and disagrees according to the difference in their comprehension of the divine attributes of perfection. It also explains the superiority of some wise men to others according to the opinion of Maimonides, who says that all the negative judgments are about God are true and all the affirmative judgments are false. In chapter 31, he goes and explains from the connection of the parts of nature with each other, we may infer the existence of the one cause which unites all nature, which is the uniting agency that is necessary, which is the necessary existence. It points out that the vision of Elijah saw on the Mount Horeb was an allusion to this. It also explains the meaning of the expression a still and small voice, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12, and the statements of the rabbi that the hashmal, meaning the hayots, are fire speaking. Here ends the summary of the second book, and with the help of God, we're going to take a look at the third book. There are 4 different books as we explained, and so as we introduce ourselves into the book 3, we will take a look at different areas there that will be of great understanding. And keep in mind, these first couple of videos, they're all introduction to the Sefer Ha-Ikkarim in the merit of George Albo, in his memory of blessed memory, and a blessing to each one who will be learning with me this video. You can also check the video out that will be put up to our YouTube page at Ways of Israel, youtube.com/Ways of Israel, and see the continuing classes that we're giving on this subject of Albo, Sefer Ha-Ikkarim. Shalom, shalom, and I wish you all a lot of blessings in this day. May Hashem bless you and keep you and guard you. And remember, be part of the Ways of Israel and donate today. You go to our page, you go to Los Caminos Israel, PayPal.me/Los Caminos de Israel, or also just go to Zelle and send it to Rabbi Otero, and it goes directly to our Ways of Israel account. Thank you. May God bless you, and share this video with your loved ones and friends who are interested in knowing the fundamentals of Judaism. Shalom, shalom.